Hello everybody, welcome to this first event in the series, A Nig in a Day. Now, before we start, I'm going to play a niggin for you, but I want you to make a note in the chat of how you're feeling right now. Just one word. Can you write it in the chat before I start playing? So we've got 25 people in the room. That's quite a lot of feelings. So yeah, let's have those feelings out there. Because let's face it, it's a long week. Every week's a long week, and who knows where it begins and where it ends. So I am going to kick off with niggin number 152 from this Beregovski collection that I'll talk a bit about later. It's volume 4, the first section, believe it or not, which is called Tish-Nigunim. So I'm going to play basically, and most of the sections repeat, so I think you can probably join in the second time around if you want to sing or play along. I won't be able to hear you, you won't be able to hear each other, so do as you will. And I'm going to go around a few times. I think it's a great tune, and you can see what you think. Here we go. Okay, so that is Niggun number 152. Write down how you feel again. Let's see if it has the desired effect. We could have a gallery view and see. Anybody feel better than they did? Anybody singing along? I wish I could hear you all. It's a real bummer that you don't get any real time in this format or anywhere on the internet, unfortunately. Great. Okay. Well, I'm really glad that you could join in at your end over there. So I'm going to tell you a bit about this project. Not what I told you yesterday, but I'm going to tell you about what Beregovski says about Nigunim. So I've translated the introduction from his volume. I wish I could show you a copy, but as I said at the launch, unfortunately there isn't one in circulation, not in English. So with the help of my best friend, Google Translate, I was able to make a rough approximation, at least I think it is. I mean, who knows really, but let me tell you, it's better at translating Russian than it is at translating Finnish. I'll say no more. So I've selected highlights of things and to tell you, how about me being Big Fiona? Can you help me with that? Much as I love looking at your face there. I wouldn't put you in the spotlight like that. Thank you very much. Right, so this is volume 4 of Beregovski's collection, Jewish Musical Folklore. And this volume alone has about 300 tunes, and we're just doing the first 158 in our project. And the idea is that we use our fiddles as the voice of our soul and the voice of the Jewish people traditionally, and also because I can't really sing. But these are songs without words, and Beregovski says songs without words as an independent genre is rarely found in the musical folklore of other peoples, but in Jewish folklore it should be considered one of the most significant, both in terms of the number of tunes and the artistic value of the best samples. And as somebody said recently, he chose the best samples to go into these volumes. So if you imagine that, you know, there's 300 tunes here, how many tunes were there actually in real life? He describes one person who knew 200 just off their own bat. The songs without words are very varied in character. Some of them express a rich gamut of lyrical moods. There are also epic narrative tunes, dramatic, festive, solemn, etc. Dance tunes, Freilichs, which means cheerful, but is also the name of the dance, within this genre are also varied. Songs without words are sung in syllables, na, bam, pa, la, etc. And when I came to learn this tune, which I don't know very well because they're all randomly assigned to us, we didn't get to pick, well, I randomly assigned them to us. We didn't get to pick which ones because the collection is not terribly well known, first of all, and also because 35 people looking through, picking the tunes that they want to play is going to get us well beyond the lockdown, so I chose them for us. But I looked at this one and I thought, yai dai 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 ya bai da da dai 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 ay 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 dai dai dai, and these are the sort of things that happen in Nigunim. You get this ridiculous thing, and every time it comes out, it's ya 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 ya. Everybody just gets into it and has a little chuckle. So I picked this one for today because it just definitely raised my spirits, and it was a good rousing one. It says a feature of songs without words is that they do not consist of one musical section like the melodies of almost all folk songs, but of several, from 2 to 5 parts. And this brings together songs without words with the instrumental genre. So as we know, klezmer tunes tend to be 3, 4, 5 sections. Songs without words appear to have been common in Jewish life for a long time, which is obviously explained by the fact that for religious reasons on the Sabbath and Jewish holidays, playing musical instruments was not allowed. So the dance tunes were sung at general festivities and evenings at home. And at home, Tish-Nigunim means table tune. So after dinner, there'd be some table banging, table singing, that sort of thing. And there was a bit of that in my family now and again. even though we weren't religious. Although instrumental music was very common in the Jewish life of the past, capellas of professional musicians played primarily at weddings. On other occasions, they were dispensed with, and people limited themselves to singing, accompanied at family parties by amateur musicians, mainly violinists. And one of the recordings I managed to match up with the tunes in this book, we don't have many of them, did actually have a fiddle playing along with some people singing. So what he says is that basically it's been common in Jewish life to have songs without words, these single line tunes with no harmony. But the genre was particularly developed with the advent of Hasidism, and that means pious. It was a religious mystical movement that arose at the beginning of the 18th century and became widespread among Jews in Eastern Europe. And of course we see Hasidim today, they wear old-fashioned clothes, they adhere very strictly to Orthodox religious practices, and we see them up the road from where I live in Stamford Hill. And he describes in this introduction some of his memories of the Hasidim coming around 3 times every week during after dinner on a Friday night, after going to the synagogue on Saturday lunchtime, and then Saturday evening after the Sabbath, after Shabbos had ended. So the house was always full of 20 men singing and dancing and eating, presumably, his mother out of house and home. The other thing about the Hasidim is because they like to preserve a tradition, once they started writing these tunes, which they encouraged people to sing because they wanted to promote joy and getting away from everyday cares, they preserved them intact because they didn't want to change anything about the culture. So when the leader, their great leader, the tzaddik, died, they would carry on with all the traditions and the tunes. And that means that we have these crystallized tunes. We don't know which ones are the oldest ones and which ones are the newest ones, but we know that they do date back to that time because they will have been preserved. Mostly we don't know who wrote them because their names have been lost, but some are attributed to particular cantors or particular tzaddiks who were known for their musicality. Songs without words were performed solo and in chorus, but like folk songs, they were performed unanimously, monophonically. In fact, this was practically the only type of Jewish song performed publicly and collectively. And you can see on the internet lots of videos of Hasidic men dancing, singing Nigunim, no musical accompaniment. If you look on that web link I gave you on my website, I put up a page about the project, and there's a very unusual video of a film made in Munkash in the 30s, and it's a Zionist celebration. Men and women dancing together, obviously not religious, and singing a niggun at the same time. And it's really nice to see that because it's quite rare to actually find, because it's so Hasidic these days, the singing of niggunim, apart from in our community. It's wonderful to see that dancing and singing at the same time. The mode that they use affects the mood of the piece. So that's a very majory one. It's very happy. Sometimes you get something a little darker. And about the collection, a more or less systematic collection and recording of melodies began in the late 1890s. And his collection here includes stuff from an expedition that went out in 1912 to 1914 into the field in Ukraine. And the tune that I played there was indeed recorded from Wairochel in Kremenetz in the Volyn region in 1913. So it's part of an expedition that he was not upon, because I don't think he was born, but he wasn't collecting at that point. And he says that these ones are the less dancey ones, the ones that we're looking at, the second half of the Freiluchs. And he also says that the tempo is what they kind of remembered because he didn't have access to the recordings when he started transcribing them. So that's sort of interesting. Some they transcribed directly from the people who were singing them, and some they made these wax cylinder recordings. So that's my little bit of background. Any questions up till now? Type a little message if you've got anything you want to ask. Otherwise, I thought I would play another one. Dots, please. Well, I can't put up a link to the dots because I've just got these ones which are come out of the thing. But part of the project, I'm hoping, is that eventually it will be, I'll do transcriptions and we can produce a book. But I don't know who we have to get permission from. I have to look into this. This is why we're playing live for the moment. But it's a good opportunity for you to be transcribing and learning the tunes yourself. He also says the key, he standardized the keys, so it's all in some kind of G. So here is number 93. Now this is interesting because it's called an Alte Khsidisher Niggun, so an old Hasidic Niggun, and it was collected in Kiev from S. Golergant, who learned his tunes in Bessarabia, and it was collected on 10th of July 1944. So we're in, you know, the Russian side of things, and the Second World War is not really touching the collection of musical materials in the field. Here we go. An Alte Khsidisher Niggun. So this one's in 3, and it's in Freygish, I believe. So it goes. Quite sweet, isn't it, that one? So you can see very, very different feeling in that one. And it's interesting when we're playing these instrumentally because it gives rise to all sorts of questions. Do we play it as an instrumentalist, or do we try and stick to what a singer would have done? Beregovski says these were developed as a singing tradition, you know, so over the years, although they could have been instrumentals, they do incorporate some of those things that singers do. And so it's, you know, it's a kind of moot point whether we do that or not. But I wanted to share with you a little bit of the process that goes on, because we're all going to be playing tunes that we don't know. And I'm going to put up something that our friend Amit has already done. He's very keen and he's already done 3, which no pressure on the rest of us, you know, or anything, but, and he's getting very confident with the technology, which I wish I could say. So he's posted them up on his YouTube thing, and he does some commentary afterwards, and he can talks about tunes that he knows already, that he thinks are like the tunes here, which is always of interest to us when we think about where they're coming from, especially within the Jewish music tradition. Are they also a secular song? Are they an instrumental? Is it a wedding thing? Is it something from the synagogue? So I went on one of these little journeys, and I found one of my allocated tunes is number 25, and it's called Tish-Nigunim, and it's from M. Hopinka in the town of Dubrovno in Mogilevskaya, Mogilev. So it's kind of up towards the north, north of Ukraine, I believe. And it's from the Kieselhof again in 1913, that same collection. And so we know that it's going to be older than that already if it's from 1913. If it's, you know, if it's from 1944, it could have been composed yesterday, 1913. Again, it's already nearly 50 years older, and possibly older than that. But this is Tish-Nign, so it's a niggun to be sung at the table, which automatically sort of tells you something about it, perhaps that you're not dancing around is not supposed to make you dance around, else maybe you would be dancing around. So we look at the title first for, when we're thinking about interpreting. And I'll just play it for you, and then I'll tell you a bit about the process I went through just this afternoon, in fact, when I was thinking about it. So it goes. Yeah. Okay, that's what it would sound like if it was in Freygish. But actually, if I look at the key signature, it's not. So I'm going to play it again in the right mode, which will give it a whole different mood. Here we go. So what immediately occurred to me, thank you very much, what immediately occurred to me when I looked at the beginning, when I thought about the videos, was the Russian chairs. Don't usually play it in that key, but anyway, so yeah, the beginning really made me think about that. But I thought, well, it's a Tish-Nign, and the tempo given is moderato, and it's from the part of the book that says it's not really about the dance. So I thought, well, that's interesting, and I looked again, and the second section had this. And this is remind me of. which is a tune I learnt probably at my very first Klez camp called Yismechu. And it's a prayer. I looked it up, not being religious. It's a prayer from Shabbat, and it's from the last part, a prayer that says, "Those who keep the Sabbath and call it a delight will rejoice in your realm." Yismechu. The spelling of the transliteration made it quite hard to find in the first place. Gosh, I love it. Somebody's walking in the forest. So that led me to look for a recording, and as with many prayer tunes, there can be many different versions, but I was lucky enough to actually come across the correct one, which I will attempt to play for you here. So this is a really lovely website if you're looking for prayer tunes and Nigunim. It features some names of people that I've heard of. I think they're in New York possibly. It's called hadar.org, HADAR.org, and it's got all sorts of material there and little recordings that you can listen to. And this is Rabbi Eliezer Diamond. See if you can hear this.
Yismechu v'malchutecha shomerei Shabbat v'korei yoneg mikadeshei shivyi kulam yisbiyu v'yitanegu amitu v'cho v'ashvi ratitabo v'kidasho Hemda yomim oto koroto seichel mas vereishi hemda yomim oto koroto seicher lemas vereishi.
So that was the version that sort of seemed to correspond a little to the one I knew. Here was another one.
Yes,
which didn't, but there was another one. I went back to my notes that I'd made when I was first learning klezmer, when I came back from Klez camp, and I was so keen, and I went to all the old recordings and I wrote out all these tunes, and I came across one from Shloim Beckerman, which was also Yismechu, and it sounded like this.
Shomrei Shabbat v'korei yonei Shabbat Yismechu v'malchutecha Shomrei Shabbat v'korei yonei Shabbat.
Yum de dum. It's also a song, isn't it? The rabbis doing this, the rabbis that. So we see, you know, a correspondence starting to occur between the tunes, the Tish-Nign, that's taking bits of these different things possibly. It makes sense that if it's a prayer tune, they're singing some version of that, but perhaps a more secularized version at the table. So that's one of the things that sort of goes through my mind. There's another tune here called, which has two different speeds in it. I thought, well, that's a bit strange. But then I'd come across the other day, I was looking at some tunes in a book by this guy Beregovski about dances, old dances that are not done. I'm hoping to do a workshop with them with the tunes. And there's a tune called a bagler, a little beigel. I guess it means a round dance, as in that song that Indra sang in London Klezmer Quartet, where it says, "My feet are weaving beigels." It means they're sort of going around in circles. It's making me dance, basically. And the Beigler has two sections. One's faster than the other. And I thought, oh, well, maybe that's... And this one's called Nign, not Tish-Nign. So maybe it is more of a dance tune. And you're reprising the dance, the instrumental, as a song. But just going back to the one that we were just talking about, the other question is, of course, do we want to do some harmony? And a lot of people these days will harmonize a tune. They like to play with somebody. They like to give it some sort of context. And I mean, what I love about these and what I've asked everybody to do is to record a version that's completely plain, because that's the way that have been sung by one or by many. But that you can put harmony to them, obviously, and if you're not locked down on your own, then you can do it at home, perhaps with somebody there. And I think that maybe some of the people who are doing the other shows, maybe Cookie will be doing it with Josh Horowitz, and they're in the same place in real time. But there are so many choices that it's quite strange to think of it. So could all be G minor, or it kind of depends on your taste and what area you come from and what kind of other music you play. And for some of these Nigunim, they would have been taken in from other people's traditions. And so they might have been harmonized in a completely different way to if you were coming from the Jewish community. So that's a thought, you know, if you're taking the tunes and doing something with them and you want to harmonize them. I'm not making any recommendations, but it's something that goes through my head when I'm playing them. I'm going to stop because I have been going for half an hour, and I'll ask for any comments. Oh, it's very sweet. Somebody said something very nice. Everybody wants a link to the dots. Anybody else got any thoughts or comments that they want to share? You're going to have 34 other chances to go into some of this material with people over the next few weeks. So don't feel you have to get it all out now. Let some of it settle, perhaps. What, not an hour? Well, we said half an hour originally because I wanted a free thing on Zoom, but yesterday things were going so badly, so well that we had 100 participants on Zoom, and we needed to raise the limit. So Francesca basically pimped my code and went in and gave me a bigger subscription, so it can be longer. But I didn't want everybody to get bored. You have to condense into half an hour, don't you? I did have something else to do. Oh yes, it was advertising Paulina Shepherd's daily sessions at 6 o'clock London time. So if you find that after you've been to this session, if it's an English session, because they're all at 5 o'clock local time. So tomorrow is Alexei in Moscow, so that's 5 o'clock his time, which is 3 hours before us, so it's 2 o'clock here. But if you find yourself thinking, oh, I want to sing some more, sing with Paulina Shepherd at 6 o'clock. She's got a daily thing, and I'll put up a link to that. Let me just do it. And today I think this is hers. And today I think she's doing it with Josh Horowitz, who I mentioned just before, who is a wonderful cymbalom player and accordion player. And I mean, you are getting more klezmer than you would ever get in normal times, because of course we all can't go out and do concerts places that aren't live streamed. We're all just sitting at home broadcasting to you online all the time because we can't help ourselves. So I think, oh, I see Adina's here. And of course there's a weekly teaching session on a Sunday as part of the London Klez Jam, the Klez Jammers session. And the next one is Ilya, is that right? Possibly this coming Sunday. Who may or may not be here. I thought I saw him registered as possibly coming. Ilya Schneeweiss, who's another wonderful accordionist, and most people apart from me play other instruments as well. He was playing a whistle, I think, in a session a while ago. So this is all by way of saying I will be doing some more online teaching sessions, and keep an eye on my website events page, which I'm about to upgrade because I think it looks a bit shabby. And come and learn a tune or two with me. I'm going to be doing a sekund session for string players and fiddle techniques sometime in the next couple of weeks. Can't remember exactly when. And don't forget to donate if you can, because we've got this, I've set this target of £100 per musician over a month, with us all doing an individual session and at least one joint session. So it's got to be worth putting something into. And do keep posting things of your own. Any more interaction here? Let me look at you all and your lovely faces. Oh, you've all you're all very dark today. Are you shy? Everybody's shy. Hannah, hello. Oh, you're all coming back. I think it's because you've gone to the loo. You see, half an hour is enough. Okay, I'm looking to see if anybody wants to ask anything or share anything. Or it's very sad that we can't play together. But I just want to point out while we're here that we've got Anna, we've got Olga. These are musicians on the project. Monica's up here. We've got Francesca, Johannes, Ariane. And if you look at that link I sent you to my website, which I'll just put up again, you can see the dates and times that they'll all be doing. In fact, I think Anna and Olga have swapped, but I'll change that after this session. So I think you'll find that a lot of us are putting in lots of instrumentally type things. Oh, there's Beth as well. Beth's another cellist. We've got 2 cellists on the project, which is very, very thrilling for us. Yes, lots of instrumentally sort of stuff, because we get carried away with these Nigunim. But I've been fairly plain and simple today, and I hope that you've enjoyed those tunes. And I've got 5 on my list, and I'll probably end up doing some ones that other people didn't want to do as well. So you'll be getting a lot more of me. But do keep an eye on the Global Fiddle Facebook page and my webpage, because I'm going to be putting up the videos as they come through from people, and also these daily videos. We'll be recording those and putting them up for everybody to enjoy. So forgive me for talking so much. Thank you so much for coming along, and I look forward to seeing you all again really soon. Bye bye.